Hi everyone. I just wanted to take some time and go over one of the websites that was handed in, just so you guys know kind of what I'm looking for when I'm marking these for real. So these were formative and didn't count towards your mark. It was kind of practice. But what I want to do is go through some code and look at the site and see what kind of things I want changed for the summative. Okay? So, first of all, this site is well done for what I asked for. It's got everything I wanted. It's got lists. It's got the videos. All the check boxes are done for the most part. But what I want to do is I want to look at the actual code. So from my perspective as a computer programming teacher or a Comtech teacher, what is it that I'm looking for? Now, I'm willing to give a little bit of leeway here because we were using NetBeans, and NetBeans is and it made some decisions for us, but I want to get away from that. So here's what I like. I look at the top, and here's an HTML tag. Now, first thing I notice is there's no doctype tag at the top, and that's one thing I think I did ask for. So you want to have a doctype at the very top. Now, if you don't know what that means, you can just go quickly here and type HTML doctype, and you can get some quick information on what the doctype looks like, and that's what it is right there. All it is a little piece of code at the very top that says, hey, this is HTML code. That's it. And there's more information here if you want to take a look at what it is. But to put in a doctype, I can probably there we go, just find some code, copy, and paste, and there we go. Oops. There we go. Okay, so there's my doctype. You need that. Make sure you have that. Now, I start my HTML code, and this is something put in by NetBeans that we do not need, so I take that away. And then I've got my head section, and it's really important to tab indent properly. So I'm going to tab over and say, okay, I know that my head section goes inside the HTML tag. And then this stuff here is all going in the head section. Now, before I talk about it exactly, I want that tab properly. So I start lined up, and it's one tab over. Okay? And then all I really need right now in the head section is a title. I don't need this stuff that was put there by NetBeans. So I take it out. And then this is the end of the head section. So this should not line up with the HTML. It should line up with the head. So I'm opening the head section, I put a title in, and then I close it. Okay? Next up, I'm going to put a line of white space indicating that I'm done with the head section. Just makes it easier to read. And then again, this is put in by NetBeans, and so I'm going to take that out. So here's where I start the body. Now everything in here should be tabbed over. So to fix it quickly, I'm gonna just tab everything back over to the start, and I'm going to look for the end body tag. Now here it is. It's at the very bottom. Now I want that HTML to be below, and I want body to move over 1. So the body tab here is aligned with the body tab up here. And everything inside has got to move over. So I'm going to highlight everything in here, and I'm going to tab once, twice. Okay? So now, when I'm reading this now, here's my doctype, here's my HTML, saying, okay, the HTML is starting, here's the head section, and it's over. Here's the body section, and it's going to have all this stuff in it. Okay, and now we're doing all right here. Okay, now here we have a little bit of an intro. Hello, my name is John. This is my first time creating a web page, and that's fine. And they've chosen to center it, and that's fine. And this tag is going to make it bold, and this is going to change the color. I would guess that all this stuff was taken from an HTML editor, and that's, again, fine. So I'm going to just pare it down a little bit, just make it a little bit cleaner to read, and that's what I'm going to do. So this now has turned into a paragraph that just says, hello, my name is John. This is my first time creating a web page. Now, I'm going to save this. Notice it's called sample website feedback.html. It's on my desktop. So I'm going to go to my desktop. There's the file. If I double click on it, it launches, and I can see exactly what it looks like. So here's that paragraph that I was talking about. Now, if I go back to my editor, I'd like a title, like an actual title to appear on my page. So I'm going to use what we call the header tags. So I type H1, and I'm going to type sample website. And then I'm going to end that h1 tag. Okay, now by doing that, I should see a large bolded header at the top of the page. So if I go back to Chrome and reload that page, there we go. Okay, now I've got the sample website, I've got my opening paragraph, and so on and so forth. So let's go back to the code, take a look at a few more things. Okay, so I've got hello, my name is John, this is my first time creating a web page, and so on, and then I've got a paragraph tag with an image inside of it. That's fine. I've got my alt tag, that looks good, and then I've got some style. Again, this is probably done with an HTML editor. You don't have to have that. So I'm going to take that out for now. Now it might change my centering or something like that, and if you want the centering, that's fine, put it back, but for my purposes, I'm going to take all that out. I don't actually have to have a p tag around an image in order for it to show, because it's not part of a paragraph. So I save that, and I'm going to go back into Chrome, and I'm going to reload, and there we go. Okay, now I'm obviously left aligning it, so I'm just showing some differences. And then this line here needs to come over, so we'll go back, and again, here it is. There's some style associated with it. And I'll just put, I really enjoy camping, so I decided to, yep, that's fine. And maybe I move that one up a line, and that's not going to change the way the site looks, but it tells me that these two things are designed to go together. Okay? Okay, next up we have a table, and the table looks fine, like the structure of it looks fine, but there's a couple things I want to change. So first thing, let's just use some header tags just to get used to it. So now there's h1, so I used a header tag h1. I'm going to use h2 because it's a little smaller, but notice I can use anything from h1 all the way to h6, and the lower that number gets, or, well, higher, sorry, the higher that number gets, like if I go to h6, the text will be smaller and less, it won't stand out as much. So let's do, I don't know, h3, and I'm going to put, what is this table about? Looks like it's about top 10 reasons I like something. Camping. So camping pros, I guess. And we'll go h3, so I end that tag. Okay. Now here's the table starting, and all the stuff inside the table tag should move over. So anytime we have an open tag like table, where's the closing tab? Oh, here it is down here. So all the stuff here needs to move over one. And then we look again, here's a T body tag. This is the body, the table body, and this is where it ends. So I'm going to go down here now, and I'm going to take all the stuff within the T body tags, and that moves over too. Same thing with this stands for table row, and so I have a row that starts here. This is the stuff on the row, and the row ends here. So this line needs to move over. Okay, and same with, again, here's a table row starting, here's one ending. So this stuff needs to move over. Here's a TD tag, which is essentially a column, and notice that it ends here, so this needs to come over. So anytime you have an open tag and a closed tag, the stuff in between has to tab over. So going a little faster here. Oops. You gotta be careful. So you can fast forward the video if you want to. I'm just going to tab them all correctly. Everything's going to move over. Okay. Okay, that's better. So now I look at the table and I can kind of see the structure, right? Table tag ends here, table body ends here, and then each row has stuff in it. Notice that each row is repetitive. It says style width 100% and the height is 41 pixels. You don't have to have that. If you want it, you can have it, but here I'm saying the row is going to be 41 pixels, and I'm saying it again. You don't have to have that much information. Again, the HTML editor put that in for you, but I'm going to take it out and just make my table a little easier to understand. Okay, now let's go take a look at the table and see what it's like now. So I'm going to save, and I'm going to go here, reload. Okay, so there I've got my title, right? And I've got top 10 reasons I like the camp. Which, by the way, this could be, see how it's bolded? That could be a header too. Like you could make that an H4 tag or something like that. Let's go back into the code. And notice how the table goes on forever. Like it goes all the way from here to here to the very end of the screen. Why is that? Well, that's because we made it 100%. That style width equal 100%. We don't need to have that. So watch this. I'm going to do a Control F for find. And I want to look for width equals 100%. And I'm going to replace with nothing at all. So I'm going to hit replace. And I do them one at a time just because I don't like doing the replace all. I like to make sure that I know exactly. See, like here's one, for example, I don't know that I want to replace that, so I'm going to skip that one, find the next one, and replace, replace, replace. Okay, I'm good. And close that. And that'll work for any editor. I'm using an editor called Atom, but that works for any editor. Control F is a universal kind of deal. So I save. And then I'm going to reload the page, and so I must have missed a width. So I go back to the code, and here we go. Yeah, I missed this width right here on the overall table, and save again, reload. There we go. So now it's not taking up the whole, and if I want it to go all that way, I can, but just to show you the differences, I don't have to have it do that. Now, if you look in the code again, notice I've got this is the table column, and actually let's go here. This is the first point, right? And so I've got table column starting here. This is the paragraph I want to put in there, and then I end it. And then here, I don't quite do it the same way, right? There's no paragraph tag on this one. So I think you want to be consistent. If you're going to have it as a paragraph, then you should add the p tag here, enter, end it here, and then have the ending. So you can either keep this style or keep this style. I don't really care as long as you pick one. But yeah, pick one. Don't kind of mix it up. So if that doesn't make sense, just take a look. This is one row right here, number 3, and this is one row, number 4. Notice that this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows of code, and this one only has 3. And the difference is just the p tag. So again, just be consistent in what you're doing. It doesn't necessarily matter. One's not better than the other, but it shouldn't really look different if you're trying to do the same thing for each row. Okay, I'm not going to bother going around doing that for everyone, but just be aware of that. Okay, now whoever did this, I think they may have been trying to put their list in their table. Whenever I see 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, that's not really how we want to make a list in HTML code. So let's make a list. So I'm going to, after the table, I'm going to put in a list here. So I'm going to put a list in that says, I'll give it a, say, an H4, no, I'll do H3 tag. And I don't know what I'm making here, so let's make a list of TV shows. If I'm making a list of TV shows, the last thing I want to do is do this, where I go, okay, I'm going to do a paragraph and 1, period, blah, 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 whatever. Okay, don't do that, because HTML has it built in to make a list really easily. If I want numbers, so if I want an ordered list, 1, 2, 3, 4, then what I want to do is go, okay, I want an ordered list. So open up an ordered list tag, and then close it right away. That's a good strategy to use, by the way, to close it right away. And then in the middle, what we want is our list items, LI, list items. And I like, I don't know, I like old shows, but we'll do some good. Family Guy, sure, why not? And then I close it. And I just keep repeating that pattern over and over again. So Family Guy, and I like Stranger Things. So there's 2 of my shows that I like. Okay. Now notice there's no numbers in there at all. Save this, and I'm going to go look at what it looks like online. And look, there's numbers. There's numbers because I told it to be an ordered list. So if I go back to my code, and I say, you know what? I don't really like those shows in any particular order. They're just my favorite shows. Well, maybe now I don't want numbers on it. I just want bullets. So I go File, Save. And now just by making that one little change where I put a U here instead of an O, oops, sorry. Look, now they're bullet points. Okay, so there's two different ways to make lists, and you can pick whichever one you like based on whether you think it needs to be ordered or if it doesn't need to be ordered. Okay. Then I go back here, so I've got my list, I've got my table, everything looks pretty good. Look at the, like, it's so much nicer to read it now, the tabbing's all there. And now I've got a whole bunch of white space here that I put in, I think, and I don't need that. And look at this. Please look for things like this. What this says is, hey, I'm going to open a paragraph tag and then do nothing. So you don't need to have that. If you're trying to put space in your program, like if you want an extra line, that's the tag you want to use. This means put a break in my code, and it will put in a line, put in like an enter kind of thing. So that's what you want to use, but don't put in a whole bunch of empty paragraph tags. It's just making the code a little bit more harder to read. Okay, so now I see this HR tag, size equal 4. That's a horizontal rule. So you're making a line, I think, here. Let's go look at that. Save. So after my list, is there a horizontal line? And yes, there is. Okay, good. So that's fine. That looks nice. And that's a good way to section up your page using horizontal lines. And then I've got a whole bunch of blank space here. I'm going to take that out. And then here we have a table again. And based on what we already said, we're going to tab that over. We're going to tab this over. We're going to tab all of this over. And we're going to tab all of this over. And at least now it's tabbed properly. And I've got my... one thing I guess I'll show is notice how all this stuff is what we call strong, right? It's all bolded. So I'm going to take that tag out. And instead of tagging them each individually, I can just add that up here, I think. Or something, maybe not like that. I think I can put it in the style. I can put font weight equals bold, but you don't have to put it for every single one of them. I think I can put the strong tag there, so as part of my TR. And then I can end it there. So if I do this, then I don't think I have to put them for every single one like that. Like that's repetitive. So it's nice to get out of that habit and don't do it if I don't have to. The more, you know, if I don't have to put the code in 4 times, and if I can only put it in 1 time, that's a lot easier to read. It's nicer to read. So maybe I'll do this where I have a row and I'm saying I want everything on this row to be bold. And then after this row is over, I'm going to stop being bold. And let's see if that worked just as well. And so notice they're bolded. So if I reload this, they should still be. Oh, they're not. So that didn't work. And that happens sometimes. Like sometimes you'll think you have a way to do something and it doesn't quite work out the way you think it does. So you can try other things. One thing I'm just going to try a bold tag and see if that helps. It might not, because it might not be in, might need to have it in like a paragraph tag or something like that. So let's save that and then see if that made any difference. And no, it didn't. Okay, I take it all back. But there would be a way to change the style up here. You could change the style of the row to be make the whole row bold instead of doing each individual one. I'll get back to you on that in class. Okay. These are my current classes at Bay Ridge. Okay, that's fine. And then we have an iframe with the movie in it, which is great. Nothing wrong with that. That looks really good. And then again, just using the white space, I'll bring this line up to say these are together. One thing, there's no comments in this code, so get in the habit of just kind of using comments, say, you know, here is my video. And that way people who don't understand HTML or just want to quickly understand your code can very quickly understand, okay, I guess this is where the video is. Top 5 websites. So top 5 websites, again, here's where an area there we have top 5 websites, but we don't have any list stuff. So, and again, here's an empty paragraph tag. We don't want that. So this is a list. I'm going to pretend it's an unordered list. And instead of putting all of this, I'm just going to put li. It's a list item. So I'm going to copy this, and instead of having P's here, they're not paragraphs, they're list items. I'm going to put them all as list items. If I do that, just remember you got to end them. So you want to make sure that you change the P, you're opening a list item, you want to close a list item, and this will make it stop. So then you got to end your unordered list here and tab that over so that it's in line with this one. So now I've got a title, and again, this can be a header if you want it to be, right? You don't have to use p tags, so let's make this h5, and by doing that I don't need the strong anymore. And then I'm going to end my h5. So I've got an h5 list, don't need the strong because that's going to be part of the header. And okay, we look good here, so let's see how that looks. I save, and then I go back and reload, and then at the bottom, okay, these are my top 5 websites. Notice that this is bolded, right? Because that's an that's what H5 looks like. So I go back to my code. If I wanted it to be a bit bigger, I could make it H4 instead, but it's going to be bolded no matter what. And here we have favorite movies. So again, same issue. This is a list, so it should be, well, the exact same thing. We want to make this a tag, like H4. I'm opening H4, which is favorite movies, and I'm going to close that. So those H4 tags are pre-built for you to be like subtitles and titles, so make sure you take advantage of those. And then this is centered, but I don't think we really need to center it. If you want to center a list, you can. You don't have to. And I'll make this an unordered list, and there's list items in them. So, like this for all of them. So if I change these, excuse me, each one, again, a little tedious, but makes it look much better when you're done. And your code looks much cleaner when you're done out live. So I'm opening an ordered list, and I'm putting a bunch of list items in them. And then I'm going to end my ordered list. And now these all need to move over, and now they're in line, and my ordered list in line, and then it looks great. And then once that's done, my body is done, my HTML is done, and I now have much, much nicer code to read for the teacher, and it's much more understandable. And the page actually looks a little nicer too. Generally, if you have nice code, you have a nice page. So if I go back and look at the final product, there we go. Looks very nice. Okay. So that's some feedback on kind of how to clean up these websites after you use an HTML editor. NetBeans is no more, so it won't mess with this anymore. But if you're going to use an HTML editor, make sure you understand what it's doing and how you can go back and kind of clean up your code when you're done. Okay? All right. Good job, everybody.